who's at fault? Is it FSG or is it Klopp? Or is it option 3? And to kind of get us going, I'll ping pong it right back over to you there, Kev. Who do you think's at fault? Is it Klopp or FSG in this case, as far as our form?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's the lack of a bit of naivety on not being ruthless from Klopp in ensuring that we refresh the team and be ruthless and get rid of players and don't be staying loyal. If they're getting to the end of their actual peak, they should be on the way out. You know, James Milner shouldn't be around the squad as much as what he is. He should have been moved on. Ox, after the second injury, we should have known by then that although he's great round the squad, we need to move him on. So there was many things that we can point at that Klopp should have done, but I also would agree it should also be at FSG's door as well for not sitting back on the Coutinho deal and thinking they've done wonders by bringing in 142 million and we can win the league off that and we'll be able to consistently do that over the next 4 or 5 years, but without any more further transfer funds being put to us. Don't get me wrong, COVID hasn't helped. I think that came at a bad time as well. So, you know, there's numerous of factors. It's not pointed at one person. I think it's a combination of factors. You've also got this season, we've got no medical doctor. Now, I think that it can, although we have someone covering, I was talking to my mates about it yesterday, and it's a difficult one because I do actually think that the recovery times of people can be a little bit less gambled by someone who's just in there on for just covering for the time being. So he's not going to feel responsible to make that kind of decision, which is why the likes of Keita and Ox were not in the Champions League squad, and now they're coming back a little bit earlier, so we've missed out on them. Would they have added anything to our actual games? I don't think they would have done. It would have been nice to have at least one of them back a lot sooner than what we have, but there's too many things to be pointed at. But I do think that the majority of it should be at FSG's door as well as Klopp's for not being ruthless with the squad.
All right, so we heard there from Kev. What about you, Tino? Who do you think the fault blames at least more?
There's parts of it I agree with Kev. There's parts of it where I think at the end of the day, you do have to lay a significant portion of the issues on Jurgen Klopp, because as much as FSG are to blame, I'm not saying they're not. They very much are to blame. The lack of investment, the club doctors' issues, and that's certainly on their door. Jurgen is a very, very stubborn man. I tweeted out earlier, and Kev's mentioned it briefly about that ruthless streak. Sir Alex Ferguson was at the top of his game for 26 years or however long it was, because when he needed to be, he was cutthroat. He was brutal, and he knew when it was time to freshen things up. And I don't think Jurgen Klopp has got that yet, or at least like we saw at Dortmund, 6-7 years or however long he was at Dortmund. He then takes a sabbatical because the season kind of went quite similar to this one. He's too loyal. The team needs to evolve both personnel wise, but also tactically. And I think the inability to appreciate that and notice that earlier on it has really shot us in the foot, and I think that's on Klopp's door. As much as I love Jurgen Klopp, and I don't think, for example, getting rid of him or him walking away is the right answer, it's still a large portion of the blame for me personally has to be on Jurgen's door. You saw everybody noticed after 2 or 3 games, tactically it wasn't working. Clubs, the pressure from our front line and our midfield on opposition teams weren't there. It wasn't there at all. And it still took 2 or 3 more games after everybody else had noticed it for Jurgen to sit back and go, oh, right, okay, hold up. I maybe called this a bit late. We need to now change things up, go to a 4-4-2 or what diamond or 4-2-3-1 or whatever formation he wants to play now. And that's Jurgen Klopp's fault. That's not anybody else's fault. That is Jurgen Klopp. That is him being stubborn and not being ruthless. And it stems back to that point for me. That's the main criticism, the area of criticism that I see with regards to their performances this season. And if I'm honest, I think some fans need to hear this, that yes, Jurgen Klopp isn't this incredible man who can't make mistakes. He is an incredible man. He's a fantastic manager, a world-class manager, and one of the greatest to manage Liverpool Football Club, and he's a phenomenal person. But he makes mistakes, and this is where he has made a mistake. And I think some fans do need to appreciate that. He's not this perfect, infallible person. He has made a mistake here, and I think a lot of fans have kind of missed that point.
Well, definitely, in my opinion, I definitely feel Klopp has been a little bit late in making certain changes. And also, as we've seen a little bit in as far as the transfer of players, the only ones who've departed are players who actually requested to leave or wanted to leave or just ran out their contract. We've kind of gone away from being able to sell players who are still in the midst of their prime, who perhaps aren't, top starters for us in order to get more transfer funds. But I think definitely that the more of the blame has to be on FSG's part. As we know, their model is that the club has to maintain itself. So they're basically not putting in their own money apart from the loan that they did give to the club. And I think they kind of dropped the ball, in my opinion. Instead of being able to maximize the prime of these superstar players that we have currently on the squad and ensure that they're not overworked and overdone and cooked to the point that we're seeing these performances now that we can get up for a match in midweek again in the Champions League, but when it comes to the weekend, 3 days later, due to injuries, lack of form on other players, or not having other options, we have to keep running these same players out, and we're going to see a dip in form naturally. But so, in my opinion, I think more of it has to do on FSG's part. We've heard Klopp's comments there in August as far as the ability to be a little riskier in the transfer market and bringing in players. And I think certainly if FSG had made that budget available, we certainly could have gotten some players earlier before they kind of blown up and their prices have gone through the roof. Now, as we head into the January transfer market, teams know we need to make moves. So certainly that's going to play a factor into how much they command as far as a transfer wage there.